Hello everybody, I'm going to review one of my all-time favorite economic board games, Masters of Venice. The board, I must admit, for a game of this level of complexity is a little bit small. I have no idea why they didn't make a much bigger board and just have it folded. In addition, some of the wording on this admittedly small board can look confusing with the old-time script when you first look at the game. I'm using a close-up here, but it is a little bit difficult the first time around. Regardless of the small board issue, the locations themselves and what's available is very clear. For example, here you could see the docks and all the various items that are available, and the cylinders, which tells you the turn order, and the lines in the water, which tells you what round it's in, because you're going to have this little boat that goes around, and you can kind of tell when you really want to amp up your game in order to win. But I have to say that one of my favorite parts of the game is the fact that it's a secret location selection game. Before each round, everyone is going to secretly select a location that they want their worker to go to, and this can be very critical in a strategy going forward. It's also a big psychological part of the game, which I really love, trying to figure out what you think other people are going to do and how to kind of piggyback on what their decisions are going to be. You'll also notice that there are numbers that go around the circumference of the dial, because there's also some secret bidding that goes on in the game. Very psychologically interesting all throughout. But when you do decide what you want to do, you turn your disc over and it says finito. How cool is that? When everyone has made their decisions, everything is revealed at the same time, and the round plays out after that. But the most critical part of the game is operating these stock exchanges and manipulating them to your favor, buying stocks, selling things, buying things, fulfilling orders so that the stock values of the items that you could buy them at low values, and then at the end of the game have the values very high. At the beginning of the game, every player gets one stock exchange and one stock in a specific commodity, but this can change over the course of the game, and controlling these exchanges is a very critical aspect. So you can go to the stock market, buy stocks in an item, and whoever has the most stock in an item will get to control that board. But other people can have stock in that item, so that can give them points at the end of the game as well. The little stock cards that you get are very clear. You can see how much everyone has. They're very beautifully illustrated, I think. It's not a secret during the game how much stock each player owns of a certain commodity, and it's important to keep track of what everyone has in order to really navigate a strategy going forward in the game. The only commodity that no one has control of is lumber. The money in the game is really cool, but I've never seen a game with so many different denominations of cash. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of what everything is, and you have to have a lot of little bowls going to, exchange things during the game. One of the coolest aspects of the game, though, for me, are these rumor tokens, which are collected by the player going last on a given round. And you don't see the colors except for the player that has them. They're kept secret, and they can change values during the player's turn, or later on in the game. The player can have a whole bunch of these things and then play them on one round and modify values for various commodities and how many orders, and it really throws an interesting psychological nuance into the game. Another important aspect of the game is knowing what actions are just your own and which could be followed by other players. For example, there are these city spaces, the north and south and the church and these other areas where only you can go. The Mercado is another one of these. These four spaces, when you choose them, they're your space entirely. You get to do that on your turn. However, if you choose one of the other things, such as going to the docks, first you go, and then everyone else gets a chance to go to the docks to get some materials. This can really change how you decide where you want to go and when. One little portion of the game I want to speak about last here are the order cards. And instead of buying and selling commodities at the various marketplaces, you could also deliver orders if you have the right commodities. And you can see them here on the cards. And it can get you a lot of points, but not a lot of cash. But it is a different strategy that could be used to complement what you're doing at the stock exchange and the various markets in the game. So that's a few elements of the game Masters of Venice. Uh, I can't emphasize, I love this game. I think it's a really wonderful economic game because it has the secret selections going on. It has the psychological aspect of those little rumor tokens. And there's a whole other part of the game that I didn't even really mention. Everyone's going to be choosing these cards at the beginning of each round, and that gives you each player a benefit as they're playing the round. But you have to realize you're holding onto that card for 3 turns. So, how many times is it actually going to benefit you, and when are you going to go to the space that's going to benefit you in that area? For example, like there's the Mercado card where you only get a benefit if you go to the Mercado. There's a benefit for when stocks are being dividends are being given out. You get an extra dividend regardless if it's your turn or someone else. And when are you going to do that? At a time when a lot of people are going to be, getting stock dividends or not. Fantastic game. I think the board is a little bit underwhelming. Visually, the art's fine. It's just a little small. The other thing is the rule book. I had to study this thing for like 2 days. It doesn't seem that complicated, but I had to kind of memorize. You go here, what happens? What turn? Who goes there? Then what do you do? What the various locations mean at various times. Um, it, there can be a little bit of a learning curve. But as far as heavy economic games go, this is the best. Masters of Venice.